We're in. We're live.
We're in. We're live, and we finally. I know everybody's waiting for this.
Everybody, breath. We finally the long-awaited Woodstock '99 doc.
We finally watched it together. This is my third or fourth time watching this thing.
It's a pretty compulsively entertaining documentary. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I think I'm done with it at this point because I feel like it wasn't that important or a landmark documentary. It's like, oh yeah, that thing back then and that time, and yeah. And I mean, that was kindergarten, first grade for me. So I'm I kind of remember the first grade yearbook, and my ninth, the eighth graders, had their polls of their favorite band and favorite whatever, and Limp Bizkit was on, and I'm like, who the fuck is Limp Bizkit? That's a dumb sounding name. And to my knowledge, my 6-year-old self was proven correct then, so I am standing by it, and I'm proving myself to be a very smart, intelligent human being, even at 6 years old. So, I have notes, and we can run down them.
Oh yeah, totally.
And
I definitely have. Yeah, there's definitely plenty. There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah,
we will definitely be playing the blame game.
Yeah, that's gonna be the episode. Is Woodstock '99, aka
who
the
did
blame?
It? It's a who done it?
Who done it? Aka the blame game. I just want to know your thoughts initially, right off the bat.
Fucking hilarious. Watching. It's funny because it seems like the whole Woodstock '99 fiasco is the first really giant cultural conflict between boomers that ruined the world, and then the young people who are really angry about how fucked up everything is. Because it's all these the guy running it is, he's like, yeah, man, we're gonna make this nice peace and love, and the kids are gonna come out and do drugs and listen to music. It's great. And then of course, as soon as it goes wrong, the disaffected boomer immediately goes to, you fucking kids and your goddamn rock music and your Fred Durst. We never should have done this. And it's completely missing the point that it's you took all these people and just deprived them of necessities for days, three, it wasn't even that long. It's you go one day in 100-degree weather without food and water, and it's you're a fucking maniac. And it's by day 3 you've got only the hardiest and most intense people there who have been able to put up with the survival conditions, and now the beast men are pissed off. And so it's day 3 you've got the pissed off nothing can kill these guys sort of types there. And then it's yeah, no shit, man. It's maybe you should have had actual water. I don't know. You should have had actual water there, and I don't know, man. It's fucking hilarious.
Okay,
I think it's just ill. I think the whole thing was ill-conceived.
Oh,
but basically, it's it's like that. It's that clash between everyone realizes, hey, man, we're kind of getting fucked being here. This sucks. And it's we're getting fucked. And it's I think that's a lot of that ethos is really characterizes the early 2000s a lot, when people are sort of just when the capitalist realism sets in, and it's dude, we kind of got a bad deal. This sucks.
There's a level of that to that. It's those people paid. Okay, so it's a little bit of a weird There's a. It's
because it's they're kind of, you can say it's it's rich white kids, but I'm I don't know. It's I feel like broke ass working class people do spend money on. They'll drop a couple $100 and be
sure.
I do that at fucking Anime Expo and shit. Especially now. I think it's more common now for young people to just blow all their money on expensive shit, because it's the future is basically completely. It's we don't have much future in the way of buying a house or anything. So it's yeah, fuck it, I'll just blow all my money at the festival. I think there's some of that present even back in the 90s.
Sure. I could also accuse those people of being. I sound like a fucking Ben Shapiro. I can also accuse those people being not smart. Why didn't they just take that money and invest it? You know, but here's the thing. I noticed this in a couple of times. It just occurred to me because we're going to talk about John Schur is the main bad guy. He's like the villain of the entire thing, right?
Yeah,
because
he
you see
really
him
is.
in back footage being like rude to people addressing concerns, and then you see him like blaming everybody else for problems he didn't think were real problems. And it's one of those like, well, statistically speaking, of everybody who showed up, these things happened, but everybody had a pretty good time. Now, I will say a couple things is there's that guy, John Schur, and he's like, it's like good, it's a tale of like, instead of good cop, bad cop, it's good boomer, bad boomer.
Yeah.
Right? Where you have Michael Lang, right? Who's just like, I read his book 2 years ago around like the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. And I read his book on the original Woodstock. And if you look at his story, he is a guy who really shouldn't be running festivals. He should be like, but he's like really like, I want to make these things happen. I have like, he's got like,
he needs to have like a good team. Like he needs to be like the ideas guy, and then he has to be the fucking Wayne's putting together the Wayne's World 2 festivals, having the vision quests with Jim Morrison, and then someone else has to put that shit together.
Yeah, he's got them because he did Miami Pop Festival, and that was a pretty good success. That was the one Hendrix had a famous show there. And then he had troubles. Obviously, there's the troubles of Woodstock '69 are actually well documented. Everybody in this documentary says everybody forgot about that stuff. I mean, like if you look into it, there's always been problems with it.
Yeah. Music festivals are just terrible. Like, just don't go to music festivals. That's what I've.
Well, it was a good idea because here's the thing. Like, if you look at Monterey was like the ideal but it was run by professionals.
You know, and I think you want to make sure the crowds are smaller. Like nowadays, it's like they've been overtaken by like, just fucking cram as many people in here as you can and just rip them all off.
Well, everybody comes for different reasons.
Yeah,
and most of them are not music. But I will say they make a very good point of making sure all the bad footage and delusional footage comes from John Schur and not Michael Lang.
Yeah.
They're very careful, and I think that part of that is because Woodstock Enterprises is still owned by Michael Lang. He lost it. I think it dissolved after '69 because they went broke. It was like this idea of like, oh my gosh, they were trying to make a profit. I'm like, it's a business, dude. Like, of course, like the bands are trying to make money. The goods are like, we're all trying to make we're trying to make some bread here, man. Like, I'm not gonna like blame too much profiteering. It's just it was a jump the shark moment for said profiteering. And probably like they thought they had a solution. The problem was they didn't charge for beer. That guy who says, they go, and I made a point of that saying like, yeah, $4 water, it's whatever. It's like, it's bad. And they still have $4 water at Coachella.
Yeah, it's fucking out. Yeah, it's fucking
it's $4 water. Like it's like $6 or $8 water at Dodger Stadium. It's $16 beer.
Something about that. Yeah, something about those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But
we got so much to cover.
But you're paying baseball players. It's also the value of what the market. It's a famous. I know, like it's a business thing, but like you are what the market. You are what the market says you are. Essentially, values is.
Yeah.
So if you say you're going to pay star baseball player $200 million over 10 years or 5 years, then you have to charge you gotta
pork your fucking audience. Yeah.
So.
Someone's getting porked.
Yeah. And still the ballparks are some of the cheapest places to go because of the stadium size. And there's less games. Like, for example, football games are more expensive because there's only 8 games or 8 to 9 games per season for that venue. Because, half the team spends on the road. So, like, you're spending, and so you only have 8 to 9 games for the entire football season, and then so you really have to make sure that everybody gets, and even at that, the TV watching experience now for watching football is much better. So, not to get on a sports analogy here, but like, I
mean, it's definitely comparable.
It's comparable. So you take the profit. It's just sort of like. It just comes off strange. If you made the mythology of Woodstock was that everybody lost money except for the bands. Mm-hmm. The bands got paid. The promoters went bankrupt because people wanted. They didn't plan it then. that they were gonna have a lot of people, like, and
Yeah.
they ruined a guy, they ruined a poor man's farm who was okay with it, but like they ruined a poor man's farm for a
Yeah.
year. He lost a year of his dairy farm, or whatever whatever Maxi Axler was saying, and so, and as far as riots are concerned, it's referenced in the documentary that some guy had his hamburger stand burnt down, and Wavy Gravy's like, if anybody wants to chip in, there's some hamburgers left, and anything, if you guys want to throw that guy a bone because he lost his business,
Yeah.
like that'd be kind of cool. So you see those things in the actual Woodstock documentary. So the documentary is not like, it's not.
Yeah, they're not like super. They're not like super.
They're not sugarcoating it.
Yeah, they're really not sugarcoating old Woodstock at all.
And
I still think even warts and all, Woodstock '99 is definitely worse.
Oh yeah. I think it's just no one asked for it.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things that like nobody asked for. It's like nobody asked for it, and then it's like you just put together this like huge fucking this huge venue, worst time of the year, and you just like literally just stake. I'm literally like I'm super blaming the boomers on this. Like this is a boomer problem.
It's a boomer bash. It's a boomer bash.
They bring up I like that they bring up the idea that it's like, they bring up the idea that it's like, yeah, that's a huge boomer thing to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna force all the kids today to like the things that we liked, and we're gonna have them experience these things as like we experience them, I feel that's a modern concept, and I'm stuttering. I've often kind of railed and kind of the idea of how modern the generational like categorizing is, to where it is a postmodern thought process of like, oh yeah, well these people act like this and act like this and so like we don't really consider generations in like say the 19th century all that much. We consider it's like it's our own self-importance. Yeah, so like Greatest Generation people weren't going against like the Lost Generation because you guys didn't know how to do whatever. It was like they went through the fucking like other wars and diseases and stuff, and then they had to do the Depression. And the Silent Generation is just like, well, they're the ones actually doing a lot of the art in the 60s and the 50s and 60s. True,
they're the culture trendsetters that no one talks about. The boomers are the ones that kind of lived through it. I think like technically Lang was a boomer, but like Hendrix was. I mean, technically Bob Dylan, Hendrix, they're all relatively last of the Silent Generation.
Yeah.
They're not boomers. Like that's the thing. There's like a weird thing. Like those 60s artists.
It's like, the boomers were kids listening to that artwork.
Yeah, look how old Michael Lang is. Look how old Robbie Krieger is in that documentary. He's not a boomer. So like,
yeah, Robbie Krieger is like so. Dude, I didn't know that. That was fucking hilarious. They fucking
that's like
who was he playing? They were playing with. He was playing
Creed.
With fucking
Scott
he was playing
Stapp.
with fucking Creed. Creed hauls out like fucking Robbie Krieger, just looking like barely knows where he fucking is. He's just playing just the shitty guitar on some song. And everyone's like, fucking literally who? Like,
and the funny thing is, and maybe Stapp knew that the Doors didn't play Woodstock, so this is his chance to play Woodstock.
Yeah, true.
Famously, the Doors were not invited or couldn't play because Morrison was going through his Miami like jail issue, where they thought he exposed himself on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And so it really kind of derailed a lot of, he got arrested and it derailed a lot of tour plans, including Woodstock. Famously, John Densmore could be seen during the, with a little help from my friends, Joe Cocker.
Oh, yeah, Joe Cocker, yeah.
During the Joe Cocker set. So, I'm skipping ahead, but I'm going to go ahead and go just down the list here.
Yeah, start going down the list.
So I mentioned John Shear versus like Maureen Callahan in this documentary, where she kind of comes off a little, I don't know what I can't put my finger on it, but like she comes off slightly over generalizing. And
there's a lot of it's funny because there's like a lot of like really just like hilariously bad takes on like Woodstock '99. Like fucking Moby is like So like Moby is like so fucking cringe. Like, and
when
then
he starts,
they have like some it's just some liberal arts professor on there, just like, I can't believe DMX was up there getting all these white people to say the N-word. Like, that was really fucking crazy. It's like there weren't enough black people in the audience. I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's like, I think that still would have been. It's like, I think if nobody had said the N-word a single time at that concert. Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, DMX had no fucking problem with it, clearly. Also, they were all paying him, so I'm like, yeah, DMX, like, they were paying him to be there, so
he was he had a,
like, all of that whole crowd was giving money to, like, DMX, you know?
Totally.
It's like, I mean, the recent sort of N-word controversies are, you know, I'm like, yeah, this is like culturally contextualizing a thing from like almost 30 fucking years ago now, man.
It poses an interesting question, because I remember watching other hip hop documentaries about like how Death Row Records' probably biggest demographic was suburban white teenagers. Like,
yeah,
like why is that? I don't know. Like is it just sort of
I think it's
exotic, you know?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it's just badass. You know, it's just badass vibing music. You know, just like the same. You know, when you're fucking, it's the same sort of like, you know, it's the Fight Club aesthetic that was around. That was just like a part of that like whole culture of, you know, where it's just like everyone's like, it was like the sort of first realizing of just like, we really didn't get it off much better. We really didn't get off any better than our parents. And it's like, yeah, we technically we're like middle class. And it's like, yeah, technically we're like suburban, but it's like the like prospects are not good, my dudes. Like, I feel like that's people kind of wonder like where that like anger comes from, and I think that's it. I think it's I mean, it's a lot. It's crazy that it like only started in the '90s, because it's definitely like way worse now. I think we have more like suicidal death drive humor. Like it's not really like outward directed like anarchism anymore. Like because the millennial thing now is like, fuck it, I'm just waiting to die. Like,
well, that brings up a point.
It seems like the whole thing of like, yeah, this is like fucked up and I hate it. It's like that was kind of the vibe of like all, because I mean, like, you know, there's connections to be made between like, you know, like hip hop and like sort of like heavier hip hop, and then like you know, and then like metal and just like, you know, just anything that like was like vibing with them, like getting those feelings out, you know?
Yeah. That kind of leads to my next subject note, was that early element of like the MTV there's sort of like Kennedy, it's like post grunge, but I'm going to get in. That's also another topping point in a minute here, but like the boy band versus nu metal outrage.
Oh,
it's really funny to watch, because that is not an issue now anymore, because we have our own personal, like, Spotify can say, okay, we have our own things. Like, people who the technology then, no one knew who Robbie Krieger was. More people now have an idea about Robbie Krieger because it can be accessed algorithmically like that.
Yeah, true.
So,
yeah, you know, this was like just like almost immediately right after Napster. So like Napster was like brand fucking new. So just like streaming music in general was like,
right.
It was still,
it was whatever
free cell phone, and like,
and it was whatever media was given to you too. It's like whatever. This is MTV's forcing boy bands and nu metal. Yeah, and with the exception of boy bands are like not really going away based on either between K-pop and just just whatever. But like, like funny enough, like with the democratization of the music listening experience, nu metal is not a thing anymore. It's like died hard. It died a brutal death, and I don't have any sympathy for it, because I never liked it then. I don't like it now.
I'm gonna go listen to a shitload of it, man. I'm gonna listen to some fucking. I'm gonna go fucking torrent some Metallica tonight, just so I can feel like it's fucking 1999 again.
And they were the dinosaurs of that show too, man. Like they were.
Yeah, true. Like, I'm like 2000. I'm like, Metallica is like a fucking 20-year-old band.
You know, same thing with the Chili Peppers. Those were kind of older guard. You know, like that was like
yeah.
You know, they were there. Those two bands have been around since the early '80s.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of funny. There's a lot of people in that documentary who are just like, yeah, these kids and their fucked up music, and I completely don't buy into that for a moment. Like, it's easy to be like, yeah, fuck these kids and their fucking music.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, it's not
like everyone says that about every generation of music, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like there's like everyone's like, oh, Fred Durst is like getting into Riot. What Fred Durst says exactly? He's like, yeah, man, take all your pin-up rage and just fucking let it out, man. Like, if you're feeling bad, let it out. I'm like, that's great advice. I'm like, that's therapeutic. I'm like, I don't suppose anyone ever came at this being like, yeah, this angry music is like therapeutic for these people who are realizing that these young people who are realizing they have no fucking prospects. It's like, maybe.
Well,
okay, I'm turning back.
Here's the problem.
I'm turning back into a Fight Club philosopher.
I'm
like, I would like to say that Lost Six in no way endorses Fight Club.
We don't endorse douchebag music either. So, like,
I think that I think that acknowledging anger and having places to express your anger.
Sure, no, I agree with that.
Is good.
But here's the funny thing. You just saw King Crimson, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can make the argument that King Crimson show is probably the most intimidating and also aggressively cathartic band that would exist that could scope an intellectual level on like both cathartic. I'm kind of reaching here, I guess, on the pent up rage, but like honestly, you listen to Red.
They're proto metal. Like they helped. You know. Yeah. You know, if you wanted to listen to like heavy shit in like the fucking 70s, King Crimson was pretty fucking heavy.
I find Robert Fripp in his glasses, not barely tweaking a smile, sitting down and just going is far more intimidating than any metal band I've ever heard. And
that is true. He's like, because he's just like an old ass man doing it. Like, it's a lot more upsetting. You know, just like fucking like just this old fucking dude and just like chugging out these like just heavy ass fucking like power chords, you know, and then it's like every once in a while just like letting loose. I feel like King Crimson is like they're like an edging band, you know. I feel like their music's all about edging. It's about all these like really just like intense like fucking especially when you see the live tour they're doing now. You know, they're doing this like 10-minute long version of Indiscipline.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, before they really get into like the song where it's like fucking like rocking and everyone's cutting loose. It's like really just intense minor.
It's also
like,
the drum solo
minor
showcase.
Rhythm keeping. Yeah, just minor rhythm keeping, and then like, you know, the drummers are just kind of doing these like crazy like polyrhythm fills and just kind of like building this intensity. Like, all that like Discipline era stuff is like super just like, yeah, I'm just waiting to nut. Like, I'm building it up.
Yeah. Let's see. I got MTV Public Enemy, which basically means like they knew this. That kind of leads from the whole MTV kind of accidentally starting a war between boy band teeny boppers and new metal aggro college white kids.
You know what? It's funny because I'm like, you know what that argument is now is that is like the like, oh man, fuck these boy bands infiltrating our angst music safe space is all that is now is that has turned into like, I can't believe they put fucking women in Star Wars. Like, that's what that's turned into now. It's like, I can't believe that they're pushing women and minorities in my Marvel movies now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, it's so funny seeing like the 90s version of that. I'm like, oh my god, like
I'm sorry, I have to go back to the Fred Durst part because I'm just like, Fred Durst. Like I don't want to say like, oh, like, here's the deal. They were talking about this, right? Because there's this multiple like blame. This is part of the blame game, right? Where John Scher's like, Fred Durst is a moron. I'm like, yes, he was. And two,
oh yeah, he's a fucking moron. Yeah, I don't disagree.
like that dude, the bass player, just like some like with his middle fingers fucking out. And they can come at me all they want. I can tell you that their music is nothing worth. It's just
the music. Yeah, they're like
it's fucking nonsense.
they're not good. They're not.
And I mean, like it's just not even like I could be. Yeah, it's all subjective. I'm usually mostly open to stuff, but this is just like you're not fooling anybody here except for more douchebags. So, like, anyway, the point, and he's still around playing shows. I'm like, but like that one guy who's a fan of Limp Bizkit's like, yeah, well, you can't blame Fred. He's just like Fred Durst being Fred Durst. I'm like, well, that means you can blame him because he was telling you to break shit, and it's like you can break shit, you can have a good time, you can go, well, you can't. And this is part of me being a sound guy, maybe, that I'm seeing like towers, delay towers fall over, and like
that shit is like so that the fucking tower is getting toppled over is like, so fucking scary. Yeah, like that shit was like, we're like, oh my god.
Yeah. So it's like the tearing down.
It's one of those things. The other thing is there's a lot of the like neoliberal outrage machine of like, I can't believe it's like, well, this is what the fucking revolution looks like, man. Like, it's not pretty. It's like, I'm sorry, it's not like it's like, I'm like, the revolution is like, yeah.
Can we have someone else run it though? Not Fred Durst.
Like, maybe not Fred Durst. I mean, of course, that's the cosmic joke, right? Is that we're all sitting around we're all sitting around waiting for the revolution, and it's like Fred Durst, the guy who can. He communicates on the level of like the subconscious mob. You know what I mean? It's like he's talking to the he's talking to like the reptile brain that is like what happens when he's talking to like the elder brain of like when you just get a million people together and they're like all focused on one guy. He's like, he's like manipulating that energy.
I admit, yeah.
So in a way he's like a moron. But it's like, because he's a moron, he can communicate to that, like, to like the idiot inside all of us that's just magpied.
Tom Morello was
big crowd.
Yeah, well, it's not gonna. Tom Morello's not going to be a part of this. He's too.
Yeah, no, Tom Morello's he's too fucking smart. Like,
yeah,
it's like he's too brainy for it. So it's like he can't incite the violence.
So you're telling me like Fred Durst is like the Joseph Stalin of like the revolution?
Yeah,
or it's like he's the one that can communicate to the people. He's not smart enough to run the show. He's just the main lieutenant that can do the dirty work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. It's like Rage Against the Machine's like running the KGB, but it's like the face of the propaganda machine is Fred Durst.
And what was the revolution against again? Like what were these people angry
about?
The
$4 fucking water bottles, man.
That's it. That's it. Just $4. Don't go to the goddamn festival then. Like they will lose money if you don't go.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is the moral of this night. Just don't. Everyone, stop going to music festivals. They suck. It's not fun. They're poorly equipped to handle you. Go see your favorite band on the tour. Go see the album tour.
There's already another argument against that spewing in my head for the artists. Like, oh, we need exposure and guaranteed, because festivals provide two things, like new audiences and guaranteed money.
Totally.
Other venues. Yeah. So like, as on the cultural, but we're not speaking as musicians right now. We're speaking as cultural beard strokers. So. Yeah. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, Butthurt Moby was funny.
Butthurt Moby, dude. Yeah. That shit was.
My name's not on the wall. Attention to detail. He was he sounded like he always comes off pretentious as hell too. And I've actually met him I haven't met him. I've been in his breathing space a couple times.
Oh.
One was
better make sure it's a fucking. There's this part of the movie where he's like. It's like he's complaining that his like name's not on the fucking roster.
It's a little thing called ATD, attention to detail. My name's not on the thing. I'm just like,
it's like it's because you're playing the fucking. It's like you're playing the fucking rave tent. I'm like the fucking. I'm like no one's here for the fucking rave tent, dude. Yeah. Like they're here for the bands. It's like all the bands are on the poster. I'm like no one's gonna go see it's like no one's here to see the fucking. No one's here to see the fucking like hippie fucking IDM like. guy.
Yeah, and every time he talked about, let's see here. Yeah, like when he talked about progressive enlightenment
He's like they had progressive hip hop at Coachella.
Like
that's why Coachella succeeded.
We're talking about yeah. We're also talking about grunge. He says like the early '90s had this progressive enlightenism, progressive enlightened values. And we're talking about grunge here.
Oh, you're talking about fucking. I'm like, progressive enlightened values. You mean heroin addiction? Is that what you mean? William Burroughs was right that like opioid addiction sort of just bestows you with this like noble character. It probably explains all of the that explains all the progressive liberal values.
Explains why I like Anthony Bourdain so much.
G.G. Allen had.
Because it's just like what are you talking about, dude? Like
I'm not calling G.G. Allen a grunge rock. I know I can hear angry emails, but I'm just like from that same era. I'm like
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, his viewpoints are all hopelessly out of touch, and like it's the reason. Like listening to him talk is like, oh, this is the reason why kids are turning to like alt-right kids now. It's because like you listen to this dude talk, and it's just like shut up.
His I remember him talking about a vegan. I was at an animal rights like museum or like organization fundraiser. And it was actually kind of interesting. There's a lot of big people there, like
shit.
Was it Scott Shepard Fyre?
The
was there
the artist?
Yeah, Geezer Butler was there.
Holy shit!
And
everyone down at the fucking tax write-off party.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and Moby was like the headline speech, and he gave off the most. He was after he was done. I was craving like prime ribs so much because I just to spite his ass, because like he came off, and it's like he came off like just so like awful. Like
anyone who's listening to this, just go listen to like 5 minutes of Moby talking, and it's just like, yeah, I'm turning this off. I can't. I challenge you to listen to 5 minutes straight.
Well, and the other thing was like he was just saying how like being a vegan is like people don't like it, but you know what? I'm healthier, not going to die in 10 years, and I have like my sex life's better than yours. There's all these like attributes where I'm a better person than you because I don't eat meat. I'm like, go fuck yourself, pal. Like it's just like, and I think I forgot where it was, but like I was in the kind of early Bourdain era. Like I think I was starting to read more Anthony Bourdain like and stuff, and his whole thing was just like, you're a bad human if you like refuse meat that someone prepared for you as a guest if you're a guest. It's like that kind of grandma rule where it's like someone's making you their culture, and you are having a closed mind because someone like if you like by all means, you should always have better tasting animals if you treat them better. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah, true.
Humans should probably eat less meat because it's just it just as a mentality, But not like it's a whole thing. But and the second time I met him was during my Apocalypse Now moment at the One Love Festival in 2017, and I walked by him next to this. He and I were like sort of in line for a smoothie.
What the fuck made it an Apocalypse Now moment? Were you just like
long
super
story.
Stoned and like
no.
Watching the helicopter, watching the.
I was working a hippie EDM festival like Lucidity. And it was I got drawn into it, and it was sort of a nightmare work festival for me, and I was working, and I was just like,
oh Jesus!
Like it was when I say Apocalypse Now, it's the. That bridge, whatever that bridge is, like that they're, are you in charge? Who's in charge here? Ain't it you? No one's in charge here. That moment. That's in another podcast. Tale of Two Weekends, I think it's called. It should be on YouTube. But yeah, Moby, come on,
fucking
man.
Brutal.
We can talk about the Girls Gone Wild versus the feminism
and that's
angle.
Interesting. I like that's the other blame game is people are blaming a lot of like I don't know, people who like to blame porn and stuff for the amount of for the amount of sexual violence.
Probably make a point saying Girls Gone Wild is not exactly porn.
Yeah,
it's a little more exploitive. It's a little sleazier.
I mean, it's like a subgenre of. It's like a subgenre of like amateur porn, I guess, where it's like people are definitely spanking it to it, but like it's like a fetish thing of like convincing the girl on the street to take her clothes off for money. Like that's like
it's a low self-esteem. I think Arrested Development called it "Girls with Low Self-Esteem."
Yeah, yeah. It's so they like to people be like, oh well, look at a big thing. There's a couple people in the movie who are like, look at Girls Gone Wild. That was so big at the time. Like it's like the whole culture was treating women like objects. It's like, yeah, well, they kind of always do. That's background noise for everything. And it's like guys are always horny and always. It's like guys are always horny, and I think being definitely like it's like one of those situations where it's like, yeah, everyone is like driven mad by thirst and heat, and it's like, yeah, these like horny dude. It's like that anger.
If it's that hot, I would be wearing. If it's that hot, you should be wearing clothes in the first place. And wearing towels.
That's their fucking first problem. They're like, hey, we're gonna. Everyone's gonna have to be naked at this show because it's gonna be so fucking hot. And I'm not saying like, but. Don't misconstrue this as me saying like, oh, the girls weren't wearing any clothes, so it's like they deserve it. It's like, no, I'm saying that like putting just thousands of naked people together and just making them all super fucking angry. I'm like, yeah, it's like there's probably going to be a lot of fucking sexual violence, man.
Yeah,
I think that it's like that's super disturbing, and like that the amount. I would also bet that Woodstock, it's like you think that there were probably, unreported sexual crimes at 99. I'm like, back in the fucking 60s, dude, like before the internet, I'm like, how many fucking like sexual assaults do you think there were at Woodstock 69, dude? Like, I would bet you it was probably just as crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the sort of, it's another one of the outrage scenes where it's like, I'm like, I don't think it was, I don't think anything about guys being horny rape monsters was specific to the late 90s. Like, I don't think that was just a Woodstock 99 problem. I'm like, that's like a broader thing that's just been with us like forever.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. And I remember Eric and I first time we were actually watched this was like a couple weeks ago. We were in Phoenix and we watched this together, and we were like, and we watched that scene where John Schur goes, they partially deserve some of the blame that they were running around naked and they got molested. It's like,
yeah, that fucking, yeah.
Here's the thing is like,
fucking says that like verbatim.
and the thing is, the counter is, how dare you think it's our fault because we had our clothes off? And it's like, okay. And this goes with also like the candle incident with the nonprofit,
yeah, it's like they're
anti-gun thing.
They're setting up situations where they're literally handing out kindling.
So here's the deal, like the human ideal, like, because here's the deal, it's like no one's, if you have a sound, rational brain, and you may not have that in the heat, and in that period of time with angry douchebags, but you might have like, but it's like, if you were seeing everything around you and like it's like super, and like all the dudes are like aggro, or super aggressive, like white.
Yeah, it's like that
regardless of race, actually. Like, if there's super aggressive people, listening to aggressive music, and you are running around with like that, you might want to double check how that's going on. And of course, certain people had their clothes ripped off anyway; it didn't even matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as the festival gets crazier, it's like the sexual assaults get crazier too.
But you might want to double check your surroundings and environment. I'm not trying to blame the victim here. Please try to.
Yeah.
But you really have.
It's one of those things where it's like it's. I feel like everyone was just wrong. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like everyone was just doing everything wrong.
The only person's like and the people like I understand like there's a lot like I don't and like I really do feel for like all the rape victims and all the sexual assault victims because that is a horrible thing. And I feel that those people were not necessarily wrong because I don't know what their choice was. They had no choice in the matter. And,
exactly.
And you could have blamed. I'm sure maybe perhaps the people who had their clothes on were more targeted because they had their clothes on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Possibly, that's a possibility. You know,
it's fucking crazy shit like that. It's like it's like one of those places where like in these like weird like micro situations or in these situations, it's just like our sort of assumptions, like especially these like mob violence outbreaks. You know, it's like it dissolves from. Just like the thought process is just like dissolved so far. It's like hard to tell. Like it's like everyone just starts operating on like fucking like what do they see around them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it's like the whole thing is like kindling for like it's like yeah, maybe we should have had this show in the summer where like everyone's had to be naked the whole time. You know?
Yeah. So like when Maureen Callahan's like, you know, how like, what does that say about men? I'm like, I don't know. Do you know anything about how men work? Like,
what I should clarify is that I'm like shooketh at the surprise. I'm like, why were you surprised this went so poorly? You know, like that's my thing. I'm like, how is anyone surprised? I'm like, none of these problems are new problems.
Yeah.
But anyway, this has been two white guys. This has been two white guys talking about the nature of sexual assaults. I hope you guys like that.
Yeah.
There's been two more. It's a better.
And I really hope
better give our opinions before we're deplatformed, right?
Yeah. And I do want to trying to make a point of that because it's like it's like you. I mean. And this is as two white young male, you know, relatively young. We're almost 30. Like the idea of you know we have no empathy. We don't have the empathy that we can adjust to other people's situations. We can't empathize that really much with the female exploitative experience or the black experience or any of these other sort of experiences. We don't gotta make a point of that. So you know, but it's to that end. You know, we also have to make But even that, like, if you know the situation, if you know the area, like, that's a prime place for you to not be. I mean,
yeah, it's like, damn, fucking leave, dog. It's like, leave this fucking festival.
And maybe this was a sunken cost fallacy, where it's like,
yeah,
we put all this money in here, we have to stay because we paid so much for it.
Like,
the water was $4. We better get our money's worth.
I think the fucked up thing too is that like women get sexually assaulted a lot, and just that's just part of like being a woman a lot of the time. So it's like I think that it's probably like it's like, oh, I got groped in the fucking crowd. It's like whatever, that's normal for me. So it's like you just stay. It's like you just stay because it's like, oh well, that's a normal experience for me.
Yeah,
and so it's like so deeply ingrained that like getting your first couple of gropes isn't upsetting enough to make you leave because it happens all the time anyway.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and it's like that's another fucked up problem of like, oh man, it's like, it's like messing with women is so normalized anyway that it takes for like just it takes like way more extreme experiences for people to be like, I think I'm gonna fucking leave. And it's like that's a fucked up problem too. And
maybe that was a bad thing to have it all caged in. But I also will say, because I want to make a point also that I'm a very I respect and the clothing optional.
We gotta get some fucking girls on this podcast, dude. We're gonna get fucking we're gonna get canceled. Holy shit.
Well, how badly are we? I mean, like,
we haven't said anything.
I mean,
I don't think
we really haven't said anything, and maybe
Hey, we're just talking. We're just
getting canceled
we're just
means
singing about what we see, man. We're just fucking
getting canceled might give us some sort of relevancy. Like, oh, people actually cared enough that they to cancel us.
Hey, we should fake getting canceled. we should start an outrage campaign. We should start a fake account to cancel us and be like, I can't believe fucking Lost beat 6.
They lost followers. They lost from 10 YouTube followers to 8 YouTube, like 5 YouTube followers.
10% of their. They lost 10% of their subscriber base. It's like one person unsubscribes.
Yeah.
And so we started the fake outrage, and then and then this thing pops off. We gotta stop saying all our best ideas out loud. That's the trouble here.
I mean, the one lady who started the foundation, like on a positive note, she made a great point, like, because they needed a circle of people saying, was it my fault? And the answer is obviously no, it's not.
Yeah, it's like that's the fucked up thing. It's like, yeah, that's another thing. It's
she came into the rescue.
That, girls who like didn't report it. It's like girls don't report it. Yeah, it's like that's part of the problem of it. It's like the lady who's like started all the email like support group for all the sexual assault survivors is like they were just like, yeah, it was kind of my fault though, and it's like no, man. Like, yeah, like,
that doesn't give you the So it is it's the touchiest subject of the entire documentary.
Definitely.
That was definitely because they set it up with the Girls Gone Wild like era, and I'm like, it reminds me of that.
Like, I don't agree with porn being the problem. I don't.
But I don't like. Here's the thing: is I don't. And
I agree with all the girls on there that the situation was like a horrifying like hell world nightmare. Yeah. I agree with everyone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. Like the fucking support group was crazy because then it's immediately contrasted with the guy who was running it being like there were only 10 reported assaults. There weren't that many assaults. It's like you are so wrong. You are so out of it, dude.
He does come out of nowhere out of that, or just just like it's like, man, you look really bad, man. Like, I'm pretty sure he's not happy with the way this documentary came out.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I still have a hard time saying Girls Gone Wild is like a porn thing because I think we look at it now with like OnlyFans, and it feels like that's more of a that's someone, they're taking the power into their own hands to like people who actually consider themselves like actual sex workers or actual can sort of manifest their own destiny with that, and they're not like they're not Cancun kids. They're not kids in Cancun like
they're not just like barely. They're not just like blacked out drunk. It's like barely coherent.
Yeah,
people getting like forced to sign this shit while they're fucking blacked out.
When you hear the argument of 2D superior because no one gets hurt, they're talking mostly about the Girls Gone Wild type exploitive experiences, and not necessarily professional adult actors and actresses.
Yeah.
So, anyway, next subject is forced nostalgia. We kind of touched on that with the Doors guys, but I wanted to make a point of like how they talked about in 1999, and we kind of also talked about the non-linearity of music now, where the 69 scene seemed timeless. And of course, if you look at the 94 lineup, they don't really address it enough, but they mentioned like they had alumni from that era, and they had some alumni from in 99 as well. Dude, I didn't know
about Woodstock 94, dude. I hadn't even heard of that before I watched this documentary.
I knew about it because Peter Gabriel played it. He played the Secret World Tour there, and it
crazy.
He couldn't pull off the show he wanted to pull off, say, at his own tour, because that show was, as you know, is special.
Shit, yeah.
But they did have that same lineup, and they did play shows there. And I remember he had like a technical issue kind of starting up, but it's a cool show. I know Green Day had a big fun time with the mud, and it was a lot of different things with 94 where it seemed to be more of a success, and it's like it's sandwiched between the successful failure of 69 and the failed success of 99.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wordplay with that, but when they talk about the kids at the 99 Woodstock, you kind of have that vibe, like they're not really feeling like the initial charms of Woodstock of the 60s ideal, which is the whole point of the Woodstocks, like the Peter Max art. No one knows, only you and I know who like Peter Max are. Peter Max is, excuse me. And his psychedelic artwork that's famously not Yellow Submarine, but like, inspired by maybe. But all that artwork is gloriously put on the stage. Like, oh yeah, Peter Max, good for you.
It's like no one. Yeah, it's like even the actual bands headlining are like pretty old at that point. It's a really weird generational gap.
Well, the Wyclef Jean playing the Star Spangled Banner poorly.
That was super cringe. I love that they I love that they show that, and it's like, this is so bad. And then like they show the guy's fucking diary, and the guy who died, and he's like, his diary. He's like, yeah, I saw Wyclef Jean. He's like, well, my mother always told me if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah,
it was like,
very passive aggressive.
He's trying to light his guitar on fire, and it like won't set on fire. So he's like picking it up and like trying to like break it. Like,
it's just funny how well, you look at if you know this, but that's all Monterey Pop. Was the light your guitar on fire?
Yeah, wrong festival.
He lighted his guitar on fire and then smashed it after that because he did.
It's just super fucking cringe. Like, it just does not play. I'm just like, oh my god, dude.
But I forgot who it was, but they made a point of like the timelessness where it's like at that point in time, a lot of those '60s like tunes seemed kind of dated and not of the time.
Yeah.
They kind of. And they of course, like now they don't seem dated. They seem very because of non-linearity.
Yeah, true.
Of our music culture, we can go, oh, cool. We can pull it in this '60s tune here and this '70s tune here. We could pull some bebop over here, and of course, depends on what kind of music fan you are.
That's a good point. It's also
you and I are music. You and I are more encyclopedically engaged with this shit, so like we can do that. But I do notice that like all the acts from the '90s now seem more dated. New metal seems more dated than the '60s stuff, like it turned around or something like that. And so like those sort of acts, the metal, new metal, not necessarily the hip hop, although like. Everybody seems to kind of like sort of brush aside like DMX's like homophobia. Where's the hood at? I got no love for homo. I got no love for homo thugs. And so like that, I kind of noticed that was like a modern non-linearity approach. That like just so interesting because like that's like. I want to make sure we have a today's perspective on their reminiscence on that stuff because it's like, well, now that's not a thing anymore. Like being focused, being like that was probably like the last year. Like I said, like Napster was the kind of like inflection point or that little like point of non-linearity. So it like exploded everywhere. If your music's going like on like a sine wave of trends, you have one and where opposite trends are kind of going back and forth, and then you get that, hits zero, and we got nothing anymore. And you get this whole thing of, and that was like the last time that people were force fed a specific brand of music. Marketed as such by the labels that be and the powers that be, and that probably is a very '90s thing. But like you get and they talked about that, the whole money and the corruption of the branding and stuff. And I know Moby made that point, but still, but like that element of we're gonna MTV. We're flipping from music videos and grunge and news to we're doing. Carson Daly's going to have NSYNC and Britney Spears and then Fred Durst and then Korn and then, in the same day, like the same. I kind of remember those days where it's like, and I remember.
I don't remember any of that shit. I have like no nostalgia for that stuff.
I was vaguely into I had my boy band moment for a while and then I was like into boy bands, Peter Gabriel, Cream, like, and some Garth Brooks. And that was my 90s. That was my 90s pocket.
Breakfast. Yeah, that's. I mean, that sounds pretty. That sounds pretty usual. I think my dad was like into like fucking, into like classic rock stuff. So I grew up with like, so I was listening to like Leonard Skinner and like when I was a kid, like Neil Young and like what else? I think about like Supertramp, like stuff like that,
Yeah.
So it's like I heard that that was the stuff I liked, and then I would hear the current stuff, and I'd hear like Korn and shit, and I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like like people at school like listening to this, I'm just like, this doesn't sound anything like what I like. Like I don't like this.
Same thing. And I kind of I accused myself of being a music bigot at the time, and I still kind of buy into that. Because I just was like, nothing past 1980 is any good. And so, like, which is not true because I was listening to, like, plenty of stuff that was in the 80s and 90s.
It's when you're a kid, you don't know how to go looking for it yet. You don't know where it was pre-internet, too. So, again, it's a thing, like, growing up in the 90s, it's like you kind of just get, before the internet, it's like, well, you got the hits of, like, every era that are pretty widely available. And then it's like, if you don't know where to go digging for like other stuff, it's like you're just not going to find it.
And also, we are not pop culture people.
We're pretty far. We're brainy outsiders.
Like I've been watching a lot of No Reservations in like just in the past few weeks, and in Tony Bourdain has that kind of focus and love for the world of cooks and cooking. And that kind of mentality in those people and how they think and how they think about food, right? Mm-hmm. And you and I have the same thing about like, and the Lost Beat 6 crew has the same thing about music. Where if you're like a music fan, you kind of dig you dig and dive deeper into more things you actually like and other things. So you're far more open minded and far more willing to explore interesting concepts of the past, future, and elsewhere, and things that are cool now and things that are cool then. And I always tell people, like, when I hear some grumpy dare I say boomer who's like, music's not as good today, I'm like, well, that's not true. There's been bad music forever and there's been good music forever.
True. And the best music is never been popular anyway.
No. So how deep are you willing to dig to find the stuff that you like that's being made today?
Yeah.
Some people, and it's always encouraging to find out that there are certain groups that exist that like, oh, they actually have a cult following and there's more than people that like it. And so those bands can actually make a solid living and not being, frankly, they don't have to be too famous either. They can kind of live normal lives. So like, that's the modern world today, obviously. Give or take a COVID outbreak.
I got a question for you, Steve. This is This is a heavy one, maybe one we could use to sign out of the topic. But
okay, I got one too.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Well, we'll do it. Hit me with yours, and then hit me with, and then I'll.
Yeah, mine's a little fun. Mine's a little funnier.
Okay.
I'm assuming yours is not funny though, but it's.
It could be funny.
It might be the same question. You never know.
Yeah, it might be the same thing. What do we got?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think Jules. I was just kind of honorable mention to Jules. Cameo.
Oh yeah,
on
Jules
this.
pretty. Yeah, Jules really. Yeah. She was interesting because she was pretty unconnected to the whole thing, but she was just like, yeah. Man, like she was kind of fucking weird playing.
She had a good point saying like, the Generation X had an existential crisis. I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question for you is, we got John Shure in one corner, Festival on Fyre, and then we got Billy McFarland in the other, of the Fyre Festival.
Oh man,
which one is the bigger scam? Who's worse? Who takes the cake? If there go those two, and I'm gonna leave Michael Lang out of it because he's always been the more positive looking individual. He didn't take the brunt of the documentary.
Yeah,
he might have actually been more.
They might have been more cooperative. Slide big time.
They did, but mainly because I think possibly he is sort of he may have been a nicer person to deal with too. John Shure looked like a fucking dick.
Yeah, he was the kind of. I mean, he's the kind of person.
Complain?
As soon as you say anything like, damn, you should fix this stuff. He's like, there's nothing fucking wrong. There's nothing fucking
Yeah,
wrong with what
I
I'm
will.
doing.
Like, it was bizarre because he was like, "I will pay you 100. I'll pay you 1,000. I got people out there, working. They looked, they're dog tired and they're working, their asses off to get this done." It's like, okay, well,
It's
then,
like, well, you also got people out there who just like fucked off and just like didn't do any of their security guard stuff, and just just like went to go see the show. My final this actually totally ties in. I was gonna say my thing was like, do you think they could like pull off another Woodstock today? And I guess that basically just means, would they? Would you be able to make a music festival of just like, yeah, man, just come and show up and free admission? And
well, yeah, here's the thing about that, and that's the deal, right? We have to define. I'm gonna go Socratic. We have to define what the fuck Woodstock is and means. Right?
That was my thing too.
So Woodstock, the enterprise. Woodstock, the enterprise, like the Woods is Woodstock. Woodstock, if everything falls apart and works.
Yeah.
Because that's what people.
I mean,
talk
Woodstock's about. Like it's like I feel like this is like having another Woodstock '99 is like Duke Nukem Forever. It's like, yeah, man, we're gonna have another Woodstock, and then it's like it just doesn't happen for like 30 fucking years. I mean, okay, Woodstock '94 happened.
It did, and I think.
There was like it's like the new one comes out and it's like, wow, this is really fucking bad. Like, why did we wait for this? It's like you need to. It's like I think that trying to replicate whatever was going on in society in the '60s is probably bad, and you'd probably want to have a festival that's a little more synergetic with like what people are feeling. Like maybe if you wanted to do some kind of like punkier or like a little edgier festival for like because people are. If you wanted to do like an edgier festival for the times, like maybe make it a smaller venue, make it a place where people can mosh a little more safely, like maybe don't have the big fucking towers and like handing out fucking candles and shit to people and have big towers you can like pull down real easy.
Yeah. So, yeah, to that. By the way, what was your? I gotta know because you.
Who's the bigger scam? I'm sorry, I totally derailed it.
I'll answer your question in a minute.
I think Fyre Festival is probably the bigger scam. At least you could leave. You could walk out of Woodstock. Fyre Festival is like you're stuck on a fucking island. Like it's like what do you do? Swim out? That's like you have to wait for a boat to come.
You were stuck in a FEMA death camp. Eating grilled cheese
literally like on like a rock in the ocean. So it's like you gotta wait for the boat to take. So even if you're like, yeah, this sucks.
It's a bigger scam than
like minute one. And you're like, when it's minute one, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. It's like you're still fucked. It's like you're still there until the boat leaves the next morning. So I'm going Fyre Festival being the more like, I can't believe they fucking did that. Well, I mean, I can't believe they did that. It's just like that one's worse.
For me, it's funnier too.
Yeah, it's way funnier.
It's funnier.
Well, that one's funnier because we know that like we know the. I mean that's another like people were like, yeah, fuck it. It's weird that people don't take like really like the sort of like class warfare angle of like, yeah, those rich white people deserved it. Like they don't say that about 99 Woodstock 99.
No, because they're the instigators.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's because they went and burned everything down.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
No, the guy who ran it was still kind of a scumbag bad guy. And it's just like, oh yeah, all the rioters get the bad rap because they actually just got sick of it and burned it down. I mean, right. How sick would it be if they went ape shit at Fyre Festival and like burned it down? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, they part of it they were the closest they got. I think were like they were peeing in tents. They were peeing they kind of urinated on the tents and the pillows and the mattresses and stuff for them.
Yeah,
and like the thing was like part of that one was like. The people that lost, we have to kind of look about the people that lost. Who lost the
Yeah.
Who are the winners and the winners and losers of each thing? The big winner, there weren't no winners in anything.
Yeah,
if you ask me, but like but if you look at,
it perma-killed Woodstock, like the whole concept, like it just perma-killed it. And I was like, welcome to the 21st century, assholes.
Yeah, but like with you take a look at the Fyre Festival, and depending on which documentary you watch, because I've seen both. My part of me prefers the Netflix one, which is sort of
one of them's like made by the guys that fucking ran it, or fuck Jerry or whatever.
Yeah, and that is that one, by the way.
Yeah, they're the.
But the thing was the Hulu. The Hulu one is a little more like, it's less, it's a little sloppier.
Yeah,
And they go more into more about, it's more of a reflection of like millennials and their social media accounts, which is something to be said. And by the way, this whole thing of like everybody sucks sort of thing, I'm learning it goes back to Hesiod, the guy, the ancient Greek guy who wrote all the like the myths down.
Oh yeah.
Of like the 5 races of men. Like, we're living in the dark age. We just everybody is shit. Everybody used to be. Yeah. They have golden age mentality. Golden age fallacy has been is in our bloodstream. It's in our conscious as a humanity. That things in the past were always better, and that's kind of the vibe. We still have that today. But
it's better because in your past you were a child and you didn't know any better. That's why we think the past was better.
Yeah. But you know, these tales and myths and stuff, the Trojan War, these tales of heroes, and it's been going downhill ever since. But yeah, anyway, so like the Netflix, we're going to the Netflix thing. The Netflix one covers a lot of people who actually got screwed more directly. Yeah. And they don't talk about the Hulu one. The Hulu one's like, oh yeah, Billy McFarland fucked over a lot of people. And then like, and also fuck Jerry. You know, fuck Jerry should be responsible too. And they made the document like Hulu was more accusatory of the other documentary being made.
Yeah,
the Netflix one does not acknowledge the other one. Like, and that's kind of why I prefer that one to a degree, where it's like, this is our story, we're telling it, and this is the people, and these are the sound guys that were there building the stage, and they are having problems. And then they talk to like some of the catering companies or some of the on-island restaurants and business owners that were like, oh, we're going to have like business every year. This is going to be great. And then they lost like, because I think they had to give away some food, and they had to give away, they were out of business. Like they lost about a couple of years worth of business. It was going to be, they were in the hole big time.
Yeah, dude.
Those
like,
people
it literally like harmed, like just harmed local businesses in like a fucked up way.
Yeah. And same thing with Rome, New York too. But like, because I mean, it's like, dude, stay in a hotel and just get passes going in and out. Like, who says you have to camp out, man? Like, what the fuck? Of course, maybe they can't afford it. But then again,
New York, I have no idea where Rome, New York even is.
Yeah, it's upstate in the West. It's
okay.
It's not Catskills. It's not the same place as Bethel, and the other one's in Socrates. So anyway, we've established, Billy McFarland, bigger asshole for sure. And also just that vibe. That was like the millennial vibe, and like compared to the angry vibe of like what that was. Is every generation's gonna have a nightmare festival, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also there was like nothing happening at the Fyre Festival. Like there wasn't even any like.
Yeah, there was barely shows where music was played. So,
yeah. I'm like there was music and stuff happening at Woodstock '99. So it's like you could have gone and theoretically had a pretty good time.
Yeah,
like maybe if you were like standing way in the back, and if you're standing way in the back and listening to the music, you're like, all right, I'm going home tonight. You stay for like one day.
Yeah, with Fyre Festival, it was all about everybody showing off and like just spreading FOMO around.
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm going and you're not, and it's it's the South Park, it's Cartman Land. The best part is you can't come, and so. But the funny thing is I didn't hear about this shit until after the disaster happened. I'm like, it's okay. I didn't hear about this. No FOMO. All right. So I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer, basically I was answering that question with the questions that could,
also my phone is on the last 10%, so I may
we'll be fine.
Disappear.
We'll be fine.
I'm sorry I set you up for this complicated question right at the very end.
Well, we'll get you. I'm gonna hook you up with a fucking blue mic or something like Snowball or something. But okay. So whether we have to establish what that Woodstock is. Yeah. So can a Woodstock exist as the enterprise? Of course.
Yeah.
If it's called Woodstock, it has Woodstock things, and of course people don't remember people don't like, and everybody doesn't. I mean, like Isle of Wight had issues too, right? Isle of Wight had enclosed buildings, and people got pissed off, and it was a very angry vibe. Altamont, enough said, right? That was also poor planning, And then like Isle of Wight was maybe too well planned to the point where it's like people don't want to pay for music, man. The idea of like valuing music is still like like, you know, hippies don't want to pay for music. They had the illusion that the Grateful Dead were just giving away for free in the park.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so to that, like, and I think part of it is I always go back on the Woodstock of '69, and what I like about that festival is strictly the performances in the situation they were in.
Yeah.
So they're in a very tough situation with the crowd that could possibly kill them if if the trip goes that ugly. You know, if you have a 500,000 people go on a bad trip, not the same thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
but like
that vibe.
If things go wrong and things go, you know, like you, and part of that is the music helps pacify the situations. The performances had to be that good. I don't think anybody kind of understands that it wasn't just a rock show. It's like those performances had to be the next level because they had to in that situation.
Yeah.
Which is why like people like the Grateful Dead were kind of like bumming out that they didn't play as well as they thought they did, or same with Creedence. But the Who, like Sly and the Family Stone, up the game. The Who, up the game. Santana, up the game. And a lot of those bands, and like depending on where you were that night or what nights you went and stuff, you know, so a lot of that stuff is, you know, everything's going wrong. Delays are going after, you know, Jefferson Airplane was supposed to play at midnight or 2 a.m. They're playing at 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun's up. You could smell the bacon frying, man. And you're just like, oh my God. They was like, imagine playing a show after you pulled an all-nighter off.
Yeah, holy shit, yeah.
Like, you could see Marty Balin, like, barely staying awake, going, can you try? Like, try. Like, it's watch that footage of Saturday afternoon, and, like, it's like...
you know, maybe, it's like...
The song Saturday afternoon.
The Woodstock '99 needed more of the artists to be fucked up, too. Like, like they're all getting shipped in and out on helicopters and limos.
Yeah, so like that's the other thing is the bands were in a situation that they had to make happen too, and I think those bands did not make the same amount of money that the '99 bands made, which were all guaranteed money, and the was the crest of the wave of like income money high point music industry, right? So it's a different vibe, a different thing to work. And I thought about this where like because I wrote about this 2 years ago when I was comparing the two Fyre Festival versus Woodstock, why one worked and one didn't. And part of me thinks is that Woodstock generation, I think had they were not nearly as materialistic as Gen X or millennials. Say what we want about, I know that's always, it's hard to see something nice about boomers, but that specific point in time, because that you have to understand too, that boomer generation of that era didn't fuck it up yet.
Yeah.
They didn't fuck it up. It was the 70s. We have to think about the 70s of the delusion and the post 60s like hangover and the Vietnam hangover and the aggressive the oil cartels and the economy fluctuating, going bad, and pre-Reagan, and these like 70s was possibly a more tumultuous era in terms of like anxiety than the 60s were, where the 60s were like idealistically like idealism was a high point, but then like cut short because of, you know, XYZ, you know, be it Oswald, Manson, or you know, Altamont or whatever. So like I think there's a level to be said of like that point in time, no one was giving a shit about how there wasn't a self what do you call it? There wasn't like the individualism of now wasn't there then. And so it's hard to pull that off now, where people want to be seen. And like the guy said about the Coachella, the point of going to Coachella is to be seen at Coachella.
Yeah. It's a different thing now.
Look at me, I can afford this, you can't. And like we're having a great time, and that's one of the reasons I've still never gone. And the bands I see there, I don't care to see unless I want to see one or two bands. They show up around California anyway, so it's like
they go around all the time.
So like it's not as necessary. So can a Woodstock happen in like the '69 style? In terms of what ideals and the high points were, I still say not at that scale. And it's hard. And do we want one? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different festivals out there. I think
maybe we can make it happen.
Well,
I'm just saying, I've gone to plenty of prog rock shows in my life. I have not burned down a single. I've not started a single bond.
Here's what I'll say though. Here's what I'll say to that though. Also, is I think the ability for other people to curate your own festivals is far more possible than it was then. So if you have the crazy like balls and money to throw down a festival and get the permits and get the catering and get the porta potties and get all the stuff that basically anybody who works at any festival will tell you, you're putting out fires. It's like a restaurant.
Yeah, true.
You're just putting out fire after fire.
You know what? I got an idea.
Figurative
Let's just do
ones.
smaller fucking festivals.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Let's do smaller fucking festivals.
Like
this 500,000 people shit. Fuck that, dude. It's like, let's cap it at like 1,000 people and just have more of them.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Is that you could do like single smaller things but take King Gizzard's Gizfest.
Yeah,
they were putting up their own festival, and like they could have their own shows and put the people they want on it. That's a better plan to do, to have smaller democratic communities that you feel more invested in because you're taking part of it. So that's generational. Like it's going to be smaller mom and pop shops.
Yeah, the mom and pop concert.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I got a dip.
Right on, man.
The fuck out of here.
Well, I'm glad we took.
Excellent film. Go watch it. Well, we should probably say the name of the movie we watched. I think it's just like the Woodstock.
It's Woodstock 1999. 3 Days of Peace, Love, and Rage, I think, is the subtitle. It's on HBO Max. It's made by the Ringer people.
Go on HBO Max. It's just type Woodstock 99 into it. It'll pop up.
Yeah.
They do not mention death grips in this documentary, so the Ringer hates death grips, man. I'm fucking telling you. All right, brother. I'm gonna dip before this fucking phone dies.
Yeah. We'll let's chat. I'll see you next week.
All right, brother. We'll see you next week. Adios.